So this is an update on the situation with Ukraine and Russia, and we know that four leaders from EU arrived in Kiev to support Zelensky and supposedly pressure Russia into some type of a ceasefire. And this is what Putin's spokesperson says regarding the situation. Let's hear.
Yeah, and they said that they are demanding a ceasefire from Monday for 30 days. They're threatening massive sanctions against Russia and saying that the U.S. President Trump is on board. Do you feel Russia's being pushed into a corner?
No, I don't think so. Actually, a couple of days ago, Putin announced a ceasefire for 3 days. Have you heard any reaction from Kiev? No, we haven't heard it either. Have you heard any criticism of Kiev for not being able to respond or not willing to respond? No. If Kiev is willing to have a ceasefire, why not to have a ceasefire for at least 3 days? So
and he's right. Why not have it for 3 days? Why are you trying to pressure Russia into a 30-day ceasefire? Why not for 3 days? If you can do it for 3 days, then can you do it for 30 days?
3-day ceasefire to essentially go on for 30 days.
We have to think about that. We have to think about that. These are new developments. So we have our own position. Yes, definitely. We see that Europe is confronting us. Europe is actually confronting us very openly. We feel it, we know it, and we are quite accustomed to that.
And do you think that Russia can be pressured in this case?
Well, if you look during the history, during the old history, during the modern history, you'll see that so Russia is quite resistant to any kinds of pressure. We are open for dialogue. We are open for attempts to have a settlement in Ukraine. We do appreciate efforts of mediation. We do appreciate them. We're very grateful.
From the Trump administration?
Of course. But at the same time, it's quite useless to try to press upon us.
So you heard it from him. It's quite useless to press us, and that's what
Habemus Papam. A new pope.
These other leaders are trying to do in Kiev, trying to force Russia, that's winning right now on the battlefield, to do a ceasefire. And it seems pretty ridiculous with Zelensky coming out and saying that he demands Russia to have a ceasefire for 30 days after high-profile talks in Kiev. The Ukrainian leader has pressed for a full and unconditional 30-day ceasefire, warning Moscow of new EU sanctions. Old news again. There's always been EU sanctions to an utmost point. So what other sanctions are you morons going to do on Russia that you think Russia is going to be forced to do a 30-day ceasefire? For what? For what? Why would you do a 30-day ceasefire if you're Russia right now? None of the demands are met. No recognition of any of the areas, and Russia is winning on the ground. Why would you agree to a ceasefire? Because Britain would do sanctions on Russia? And these buffoons from the EU and Zelensky are kind of encouraged because they talk to Trump on the phone. And Trump is kind of keeping on the sidelines, probably thinking, well, let these morons go and do what they can. I'm just going to stay on the sideline because this is a losing game. These morons are on this losing trip to Kiev. And the article goes, after the conclusion of the summit in Kiev, we all spoke with at POTUS US President Donald Trump. It was a good conversation, positive and concrete. I'm grateful to President Trump, Zelensky wrote. We share a common view. An immediate, full, and unconditional ceasefire is needed for at least 30 days. Okay, well, it seems like Russia is for now resisting. And as the article goes on, Zelensky said Kiev is ready to begin talks with Russia in any format once a full and unconditional 30-day ceasefire is in place. And we know previously Russia has resisted a long ceasefire if Europe is going to keep on supplying Ukraine with weapons. And Emmanuel Macron admitted that there is no way that they're going to stop arms supply to Ukraine. That's why Zelensky keep on saying that the ceasefire has to be unconditional, but Russia says there has to be conditions for them to stop the war right now because they're winning on the ground. And again, in Politico, we have an article that says European leaders win Trump's support to pressure Putin into unconditional ceasefire, like they can pressure Putin into unconditional ceasefire. So it's more of the clowns and the clowning that we're going to see with this European feminist clowns going into Kiev and doing their clowning. And to just make sure we know that Macron said that there's this article here which is Macron rules out agreeing to hold military aid to Ukraine during ceasefire. So Emmanuel Macron, the French president, ruled out agreeing to hold military aid to Ukraine during a potential 30-day ceasefire period. There is no precondition, neither stopping delivery of arms to protect and resist for you, Ukraine, he told Volodymyr Zelensky. So basically, they're not going to stop arming Ukraine while they have this 30-day ceasefire, and which means that Russia is basically going to, and it would be good for Russia to not have a ceasefire, because all that's going to happen is Ukraine is going to be armed by Macron and the EU globalists, and the war will start anyways. So we'll see what happens. This is the update for the Ukraine Russia development right now, and see you next time.